channel Knowledge is Wisdom. Let us start 10th class 13th chapter, The World Between Wars 1900 to 1950. This is part 1. So this chapter I have divided into 5 parts. Number 1, about the famous historian Eric Hobsbawm. So he mentioned this period as the age of extremes. So what was the reason behind that? That we are going to learn. The second important part in this is World Wars on various facts. Again, this topic has been subdivided into death and destruction and power blocks. So the third part in this chapter will be causes of the two world wars. So I have further divided it into 4 important subtopics. One will be immediate cause, both for First World War and as well as the Second World War. Second, aggressive nationalism. Third topic, imperialism. And the last one will be secret alliances. So coming to the fourth part of this chapter will be special context of the World War II. Again, it has been divided into the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations. The last and the final part is consequences of the world wars. This has been again divided into 5 important subtopics. One will be enormous human cost, democratic principles asserted, change in balance of power, new international organizations, enfranchisement of women. So, one by one we are going to discuss elaborately. Let us start the first part of this chapter, Eric Hobsbawm. Before learning about Eric Hobsbawm, this para is having 2 important points. One, at the beginning of the 20th century, the world had a population of 1.6 billion people. Right now, the population of the world is above 7.5 billion. The second important point in this paragraph is the world during that period was divided into 2. One, the Western countries, another one, the rest. The Western countries were progressing with industrial capitalism, and not only that, they are just colonizing the rest of the world and exploiting their wealth. Whereas the rest of the world was lying under acute backwardness. Clear? These 2 points are very important in this paragraph. Coming to part 1, Eric Hobsbawm. I am going to divide the entire paragraph into points so that it will be very easy for the students to prepare for the examination. Eric Hobsbawm, a famous historian, he belongs to the 20th century. He has clearly mentioned this early 20th century as the age of extremes. Extremes means reaching a greater height, means which is beyond the expectation. So what are the incidents that were beyond the expectations in the earlier 20th century were? First one, politically, the world saw shoots of democratic aspiration grow amid the rise of fascist domination, which fostered ideologies of unquestioned power and hatred of other people. During this period, 2 important ideologies were existing. One, fascist under the leadership of Mussolini. The another one, Nazism, which was under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. So, these 2 were unquestioned power. They were following dictatorship, and they were hatred towards other people. So, this has changed the mindset of the people during this period, and they wanted to look for a democratic aspiration. The second point, literacy level increased during this period. Not only literacy level, but also average life expectancy grew immensely. The third important point, new forms of art like movies emerged. Fourth one, about the scientific knowledge rose to new heights as new developments have been found. Secrets of atom and life. During the mid of the 20th century, the world has seen one more extreme about women who constitute a half of the world population have got the right to vote. Exactly in the year 1918, Britain has given the right to vote for women. This will be your sixth point. Literally, more than 100 nations walked to independence and freedom across the world. After the Second World War, Asia and African countries have just walked to independence. Best example, our own nation, India, neighboring nation, Pakistan, all they got independence. And how many nations walked into independence were? More than 100 nations. This is what extreme beyond the expectation. So, seventh point will be age of great experimentation as people sought to build socialist societies. During this period, the world has seen two important ideologies. One is socialist ideology, another one is capitalist ideology. So, socialist ideology was headed by USSR, whereas the capitalist headed by United States of America. Another important point in this part will be the world has seen a Great Depression. During this Great Depression, all the economies have collapsed. There was a massive unemployment, and all the economies have breakdown, and there was no demand and supply. This was ultimately overcome in the Second World War. Coming to the ninth important point in this topic will be the world has seen two brutal wars, two world wars, and never the world have seen such wars. The reason behind it and the conclusion of this topic will be the 20th century was a period of great expectations, experiments and dangerous developments. Is world wars, obvious facts. Here we are going to learn about at the beginning of the century, the world was divided into developed industrialized countries of the West and colonial countries of Asia and Africa. The industrialized countries of West including Britain, USA, Germany, France, Italy and Japan. While the colonial countries, especially the Asian and African countries, were beginning their struggle for independence, the other side, the industrialized countries, so-called the above mentioned countries, were just wanted to dominate the Asian and African countries to expand their colonies. So, in this course, these Western countries have formed into rival blocs. One headed by Germany, the other one headed by Britain. Germany was supported by Austria and Hungary. Other side, Britain was supported by France and Russia. Each eyeing for world domination, and they wanted to complete control over the colonies and markets. So in this course, Eventually there was a First World War which broke out in the year 1914. And it was truly a world war, as virtually no country was left untouched. Japan and China in the east to US in the west. Everyone participated in the First World War. The final result, Germany was defeated. Germany and its allies were defeated in the First World War. The war ended in the year 1918. So immediately after this, a peace conference was held, and the peace conference was titled as Treaty of Versailles. This has created the seeds of another and more deadly war from 1939 to 1945. Popularly we call this as what? World War II. The humiliation that took place in the Treaty of Versailles for Germany was the ultimate cause for the Second World War. So this war too was fought between the German and its allies like Italy and Japan on one side, the other side Britain, France, USSR, USA on other side. As like the First World War, Second World War also, Germany got defeated. Germany and its allies were defeated in the Second World War. So these are some of the important points in the World War obvious facts. Coming to death and destruction. The two world wars were different from other wars. Death and destruction. The two world wars are different from other wars. The world has seen number of wars, but these two world wars are quite different. The reason behind it is the death and destruction caused by them was unprecedented. It was very difficult for the historians to even give the right figures. The World War I, this point is very important. World War I had claimed 10 million men in the battle. Among them, 75,000 Indian soldiers who fought on behalf of Britain in Africa and Europe. The consequences of the World War II were even more terrible. It resulted in about 22 to 25 million military casualties and the deaths of approximately 40 to 50 million civilians, including nearly 6 million Jews were killed. Ultimately, this Second World War came to an end with the US attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan with atom bombs, which killed 150,000 to 246,000 people immediately. Even today, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki people are feeling the radiation effect of the nuclear bombs thrown by United States of America. The second important subtopic, the second part of this chapter, power blocks. The second fact about the world during this period is the division of the world into nation states and grouping of these nations of the world into power blocks and degeneration of these alliances into war camps. Might we have studied in your earlier classes about the nation states, unification of Germany and unification of Italy. So, the end of the 19th century, many nations have been formed on the basis of what? Nationalism. And in this formation, many nations had diplomatic alliance with other nations, and this ultimately resulted in alliances. And their main interest is to have a complete control over the world. In this search, they have developed alliances, and these alliances ultimately led to the World War I and II. So, two main blocks emerged during the First World War. One is Center, which was headed by Germany, Austria and Hungary, whereas the other side we have Entity or Allies. Allies were headed by Britain, France and Russia. And this way continued even in the Second World War. In the Second World War, we have Axis powers led by Germany, Italy and Japan. Germany, Italy and Japan. Whereas Allies led by Britain, USA and USSR. So these are the important points in the power block.